What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Real Talks with Jakub, where I interview doers, achievers, and go-getters, and how they created their own luck and became successful. And today we are here with Jon Prince from London. Jon is a life coach, and he helps open-minded people change their perceptions so that they can create a flexible mindset, take consistent action, and trust themselves to live life on their own terms. He works one-on-one with some of the best poker players in the world, business owners, freelancers, professionals, managers, and people from all different walks of life. And Jon says that when you have a mind open to everything and attached to nothing, great things can happen. So if you feel stuck in some area of your life, or if you just want to improve, keep listening. This episode is for you. Welcome to the show, Jon.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing amazing. I'm really excited to have this interview because, well, I interview quite a lot of coaches, but I haven't interviewed anyone before who coaches poker players. So that's something I really want to learn about. But first, Jon, tell me a little bit about you. Tell me about your background. Where do you come from? What is your story?
Sure. So I was indeed a poker player myself. I started off as a sports scientist. I went to uni, studied sports science, and became a personal trainer for a bit. And then I went off to travel the world. It was supposed to be 3 months, and it ended up being nearly 2 years. And over that time, just before going, I'd played a bit of poker. And while I was away, I settled in Australia for around 6 months or so to get more money to support my travels. And I played poker in the evenings while I was there, and ended up, I deposited $400. I got a $100 bonus, so I had $500. And I'd been playing for a while and winning a bit, losing a bit. And then I just wanted to see if I could make that work and not have to deposit again. So I worked super hard, played every evening and on weekends, and managed to turn that into enough money to pay for my travels home. Wow. And then when I got home, I had a bit of a bankroll, and I had a nice win at the beginning that set me up. And that $500 lasted me for 8 or 9 years as a player.
No way.
Yeah, I literally lived off of that for that time. And and that was that. And towards the last few years of playing poker, I did a bit of self-discovery. I fell out of love with the game a little bit and lacked purpose and meaning in my life. And so at that point, I looked around into personal development. I struggled with things like perfectionism and anxiety while I was playing, and wanted to find out about that as well. And it all sent me onto a different path. I ended up going back to university to study a master's in psychology, and dived into coaching, dived into mindfulness, and went on a whole different path. I started volunteering at a charity that was helping people that are suicidal through listening, and it just changed everything. And then I moved across. I started coaching poker players because it was a real natural thing for me to do, and work with some incredible people there. And then it just started moving on, and I was coaching other people as well. And then all of a sudden, I jumped across, and I've not played poker for over a year now.
Okay.
And,
do you miss it?
To be honest with you, I don't miss it. I've got to be honest. I don't really have the urge to play. And I think that's the telltale sign, because I was playing for a couple of years, trying to force it. And it's no wonder really why.
You mentioned that you lacked purpose, right, while playing poker. Was it only that you were just playing just to make money?
Pretty much. I mean, when I first started playing, I loved the game. I loved it. I was fascinated. I found the whole process of playing poker exciting. You know, you don't know whether you're going to win or lose, and the challenge, the competition of it to get better than other people, and to improve as myself as well. That whole thing really excited me. So I loved playing. I really did in the beginning, and then over time, I think I saw that fade, and then I just didn't really. It was more about winning and making money, and less about the fact that I was looking forward to enjoy playing.
So is that something you actually currently help these poker players, that they're in the game just to make money and maybe they're lacking some other aspects of their lives?
Sure, yeah. I mean, some of the clients that I've worked with, when we go through the process and look at what's really important to them and what they love doing, do discover that maybe it was something that they found similar to me and they loved it, and that's changed. And other players, they still, 9, 10 years in, they still got the absolute love for the game. And it's what excels them to become so successful at what they are and what they do. Because if you took the money away, they still can't wait to play. They're just doing it for the enjoyment, and that's what drives them and motivates them to get so good.
Interesting. Before we dive into exactly how do you help, I want to expand a little bit on that volunteering part where you were helping people with suicides through listening. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I mean, while I was playing poker, it's quite this is one of the things that people are experiencing at the moment with the coronavirus that's going on. You're at home and you're isolated. And playing poker from home every day, I mean, it's one of those things you're doing your dream job, you don't have a boss, and you're at home, and so that's great. But on the flip side, you're not seeing anybody, and it's quite isolating and lonely. So I wanted to do different, although I had a really good friends group, I wanted to do different things to explore meeting other people. So I went out and took an 8-week improv comedy course, and that was great. It was really fun. But I finished it, and then I was still searching. I wanted something else. So I started doing some Toastmasters public speaking, and I went there, and it was fun. But while I was there, I met a lady who told me about a charity called The Listening Place, and they provide face-to-face support for people that are suicidal. And it's similar to like the Samaritans, where they're a line that people can call up when they're in need of wanting to speak to somebody. But this was just purely for people that were suicidal. And I thought the charity sounded great, and I went and did the training and signed up, and it just changed everything for me, because I really saw the power of sitting with somebody for 45 minutes and not having to do anything but just sitting there, offering your time and your presence, and them being able to open up and share their story. And especially with people that they perhaps never told anybody how they're feeling, just being able to verbalize that can create a huge shift in where they're at. And yeah, I met some incredible people and heard some incredible stories. And there was one person that I spoke to, and something really hit me where they said, look, I don't feel like I deserve to be here. And it really hit me like a ton of bricks. And I thought, wow, like for me personally, I've had times where, I don't feel like I'm worthy to be in a room or be in a situation, but to not feel like you deserve to be here. Nobody should ever feel like that. It really hit me. And that was when things kind of changed for me. And I thought, I don't want to see anybody suffer unnecessarily. And so that this incredible person's in front of me, and they can't see just how great they are and how much they've been through and what a phenomenal person they are to be able to get through that. And so that became a mission for me, and it's something that drives and motivates me as a coach now.
So that was that epiphany moment when you decided that you want to like help people to get unstuck and move on in their lives.
Yeah, I think it comes as lots of little aha moments that kind of all jump in. And
so this was the trigger.
Yeah, that was a big one for me that really woke me up. And it also made me realize that sitting and connecting with people versus me playing poker, it was just a whole different ball game. And it made me realize where I want to spend my time. At the time, it was, I was playing poker, and that gave me purpose and meaning, because I knew that by playing poker and by doing my own thing, I then gave myself the opportunity to have this spare time to be able to volunteer and help others.
Yes.
And so that shifted everything for me personally, because I was contributing, and I felt like something, felt like part of something bigger than myself, which gave me that purpose and connection that I really lacked playing poker.
So you found this, that you can actually help other people and make some positive impact in their lives. So what you did with this information? Did you start finding for clients, or you started doing more of these volunteering work? So what was the next step?
So I continued the volunteering, and I was at a bit of a crossroads where I'd studied a lot of different aspects of psychology. I'd followed people like Tony Robbins and looked at life coaching. I'd followed Eckhart Tolle and looked at mindfulness and meditation. And I didn't know what the right path to go down. And as a perfectionist, you don't want to get it wrong, right? You've got to pick the perfect way of helping people. So I'd gone on a bit of a crusade. I went back to uni and studied psychology with the main purpose of finding out what's the most effective way of helping people. Effectively, what's the perfect way of helping people? And by the end of the course, I realized there is no perfect way of helping people. The best way is...
Your perfectionism kicked in again, right?
Did. Yeah, I mean, it was handy on one side because I worked super hard on this course and I passed my master's with a distinction, which was like incredibly rewarding at the end. But to be honest, like what I learned was it worth passing it with a distinction for the amount of pressure I put on myself? Probably not. Because it's not fun putting that much pressure on yourself and having standards that are super high like that, unless you can understand why they're there. Which is something with a lot of the high performers that I work with, people that are super successful in what they do. They get there because of this insane drive to really be incredible at what they do. But there's a cost to that gift in terms of we can be super hard on ourselves, self-critical, and blame ourselves when things don't work out. And it can take away a little bit of the enjoyment of what we do. So yeah, I realized that along the process. But yeah, I came to the end of the course and realized that there is no right path. So I got over my fears of not finding the perfect way, and I just started coaching people and working with people. And I learned from my mistakes, and I kind of just went along with it and learned as I went.
Yes. So when did you come up with your Teresa Formula, intention awareness?
Yeah, so I came up with that. It's just something that always seemed to crop up. So having our intentions and setting our intentions seemed paramount, because without doing that, we kind of have no purpose of where we're going. And then attention is what we're focusing on. So we've got the inside in our mind, and then outside what's going on as well. And then awareness is even knowing what's happening. But what in fact is kind of happened with that process, I've done a lot of work over the last 6 to 12 months, and it's really stepped into, I've got a 5-step process that I work through now. So it came out of that. That was like the springboard. And now the methodology that I use is a 5-step process.
Okay.
So first off, this is to help people with, we call it the 3 Ps. So perfectionism, people pleasing, and procrastination. And they all kind of go hand in hand, show up as different parts of the other. And the 5-step process that I use is first off is understanding that it's okay to make mistakes, and understanding the ego. So it starts with the ego, understand it's okay to make mistakes, and not be perfect through the practice of non-judgment. And this allows us to move on to the second stage, which is being able to accept ourselves and practice acceptance of other people. This is really understanding that we can let go of the things that we can't control, so that we're able to focus on the things that we can control. So the second step is acceptance and letting go. And then the third step is finding out who we are. So there is an inner self part to us that all of us have. And a lot of the outer shell that we present to the world, the mask, the identity, different faces that we wear, yeah, that's all ego based. And it's understanding that we are more this inner self that comes from a place of love. And as we're able to tap into that, that's really what allows us to let go of the need to be perfect, and the need to please other people, because we can see really how that all works, and it's not a strategy that makes other people happy as well. So in that place, once we understand that, then we can move on to the 4th step, which is to listen to ourselves, to trust ourselves, and to act from that place. So that's really about trusting ourselves to control the things that we can control. And the 5th step is putting this all into action and really cementing it. And this is through focused thinking, through setting goals from a place of love. So we're actually on purpose and on course, rather than trying to strive for all the things and realizing that you get there and you never quite get there. And we do that through creating your own system to make that work.
It's so interesting, because sometimes people who are not very aware of these things, they think that the first step is really to set goals, but for you it's the last step out of 5. Because I mean, yeah, I did the mistake in the past that I set some goals that it really didn't resonate with me at all. Like, okay, I want to do this, and I didn't even ask myself why I want to do it, right?
Yeah.
And of course I didn't hit that goal because it wasn't just strong enough. It was more like it wasn't pulling me towards the goal.
Mm-hmm.
So I needed to push myself. So you take all your clients through these 5 steps. You start with the first one, accepting mistakes. So is it for example, because that's what I heard on the previous interview, that accepting that everything you have going on in your life is because of you, or
Not,
is there a different angle?
yeah, I would say it's not a different way. So this first part is giving ourselves permission to make mistakes, because
Okay.
there is no right or wrong way of doing anything. This is such a key component for someone who suffers with perfectionism, because we're told that there's a right way to do things,
Mm-hmm.
and that we're a good boy or a good girl if we do things the right way.
Mm-hmm.
This is ingrained in us. So we've got this absolute fear of doing things wrong, of
Mm-hmm.
making a mistake and being criticized for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so by giving ourselves permission to not be perfect and make mistakes, we're opening up a window to be able to live with freedom. And in terms of accepting ourselves, it's understanding that we're not controlling everything. We're just controlling ourselves. If anything, it's saying that we can't control other people. You know, I have no power over anybody else. I can't
Mm-hmm.
make somebody else happy. It's up to them to be happy. The same way we can't love someone if they don't love themselves. So it's really separating the two and understanding that we don't need to, because acceptance, and at the core of acceptance is knowing that we don't have to agree with someone to accept them.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
And so we can accept somebody like they are. And by agreeing that we don't agree with them, but we can accept that that's who they are.
Yes.
That's them, here's me. And that's okay. And so that allows us to then focus on what we can control,
Mm-hmm.
and allows us to have stronger opinions, not need to be right or prove somebody else wrong, but in fact, just be who we are. It's such a liberating, freeing place to be.
Wonderful. On LinkedIn, you asked me an interesting question. You're talking about 3 P's: perfectionism, people pleasing, and procrastination. You asked me which one is is my problem or is most challenging for me. I said procrastination. And then the whole conversation twisted into a little different angle, which was setting or having way too high expectations about me. And you already tapped into this a little, that other high achievers have this problem. So is that something you see very often, that the space between who am I and who I perceive or want to be is that huge, so it actually holds us back?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things in what you've just said there. And first is the procrastination is, it happens because of our high standards, because we're so in such need to get it right and do it right first time, that the idea of doing something can be terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there's that pressure to get it right and we can't get it wrong, then we don't even want to start, because we know deep down we're never going to get it perfect. We're only going to get close to it. So it creates this cycle of just staying stuck, because we need to get it right first time. And we know that really you do things, everything that you do that you really succeed at, you do it terribly a lot for a long time. And then you start getting feedback of, oh, so that didn't work and that didn't work. So then I need to do this, and you improve and you get better. But by needing to do it right first time, get it all right first time, we're just kind of putting that pressure on, and then it never happens. So there's that created there. And then the high expectations are linked to it, and linked to this need to be right, which come with it. And in terms of, it's being perceived as being right by other people, because if we're not, then we get criticized. And it's understanding that the things that we do are not who we are, which is super key, because that's where in the third step of my process, we understand this inner self part of us. And we separate from the ego, because the ego is our thinking mind. And it's what tells us, what is right, what is wrong, what we should do, what we shouldn't do. And this is what we learn throughout our lives. So it's always somebody else's opinion. And so that's the part of us that tries to protect us and keep us safe. And so that's the part of us that says, well, don't go and do the work, because if you do it and you're wrong, you're going to get criticized, and then everyone's going to hate you and you're going to be left on your own. And in reality, that's the worst thing ever. So we need to step away from our ego and out of our thinking and come from a place of trusting ourselves to know that we can do it. And it doesn't need to be right or wrong, because we'll handle it anyway.
You can hear ego speaking quite loud in arguments when, for example, somebody uses their identity as something they hide behind something. Me as a single mom, I cannot do this, or in our family nobody was rich, and they're using all these limiting beliefs and all these stories about themselves that really don't create them. They just identify themselves like this, and eventually it will become like self-fulfilling prophecy, because they will believe it, and well, that's the end.
Yeah, it's these stories are the judgments that are placed on us, and the reason why they're there is an excuse not to get hurt. So you could say, oh right, so we'll jump on a podcast, and I say, oh well, Jacob, I'd love to, but I'm really busy at the moment, I don't have time.
Yes.
So, well, I'm sure you could find 45 minutes or an hour to sit down and chat. Oh no, I really can't, I'm too busy, I just have too much going on. That excuse is because the reality underneath is, well, what if I go on the podcast, and what if I say something that somebody else doesn't like or agree with, and then what if they don't like me, and then what if they tell lots of other people, and then what if they don't like me? It just creates this whole story. And so we need to come out of our thinking and sit and listen to ourselves, and then say, do I want to go on the podcast? Yeah, I'd love to. That sounds great. It sounds fun. I'd love to have this conversation, and come out of a place of love and compassion and kindness.
Yes.
Once that shines through, you go and you push through the fear.
So were you nervous?
To be honest with you, I was a little bit nervous.
Okay.
Before, and I get a little bit nervous before anything that I do that's new. I've been on a few podcasts before, but I've not been on one for a few months now. So then it becomes new in my mind.
Yes.
And then you get a bit of nerves, and then you jump on and you do it, and there's nothing scary about it.
Exactly.
For me, nerves happen before. I get it a lot when I'm public speaking. I was just the day of knowing that I'm going to run a workshop or do a talk. The day before and the day, I just find myself getting agitated. And I notice it happening, and it's just my ego's popping up, and it's thinking, well, so what if this doesn't go well, and what if people don't like you? And at the moment I catch it and I can see it, I realize what's happening. I can let it go. It's the trying to fight with it and argue with it that gets us into trouble.
I really like, if we take a little step back, that all these three P's are really connected. Like I started with procrastination, and you always found the back to other two, people pleasing and perfectionism too. But let's get actionable here a little bit more. So if somebody they know what they need to do throughout the day, they have the very well written to-do list, checklist. They know exactly what steps they need to take to accomplish their goals or daily goals, or to get them closer to their weekly goals. But for some reason they won't do it. They procrastinate. How to get out of this vicious cycle? Where do I start?
I'd say to start with is look at that schedule that you've got and say to yourself, you don't have to complete it all. Because this is one of the keys that trips people up straight away is, so you say, here's my schedule, here's exactly what I have to do, and I should do this. And if I don't do it, then I'm a bad person. So what happens is you get the schedule, you line it all up, you do task 1 from 9 a.m. till 10 p.m. And then you get task 2, 10 p.m. till 11 a.m. Good, it's going well. Gets to 11, and then you've not got time, or you mess it up, or you don't do it, and then you're like, well, I didn't do it, so I'm not good enough, so I'm not going to do the rest of it. It's all gone to hell. And you feel
Yes.
bad about yourself, right? So you start beating yourself up, and then you don't want to carry on any of it. So being kind to yourself as a step is really powerful, because rules are really created. This is something I've learned in the last year, which blew my mind. That rules are created out of fear. Well, you should do this, and you should do that, and you should do that. And if you don't, then you're a bad person. And so when we put rules on ourselves, these conditions for, if we do it, then we're a success, and if we don't, then we're not a success. Every time you don't stick to a rule, or you don't keep up with it, then you feel bad. So taking that pressure off straight away gives us permission to make mistakes and not be perfect, and be able to kind of push through. So that's a really good way to break the kind of fear of procrastination straight off the bat.
So just take a look at my schedule and say, it's okay if I won't finish it today.
Yeah, here's what I plan to do, and I really want to get that done. But if I miss a few things on it, I'm going to be kind to myself and say, that's okay. I'm human. I get things wrong sometimes, or I miss things.
And in the end, even this approach will learn you how to prioritize, because usually the things you will finish, they might be, at least that's my case, they are the most important ones. And if I will be pushing some of them, some other tasks, then I know that I won't need to plan them in upcoming days either, because, well, they've been already transferred to other day multiple times.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things there that you've pointed out that are useful as well. So like the priorities, like knowing what your priorities are, the most important things. I mean, the age-old thing is eat that frog, right? So first thing in the morning is do the hardest task, because we're most fresh in the morning, we're there, and we're good to go. And as we go throughout the day, our willpower depletes and we become more tired, and it becomes harder to have discipline and do the things you want. So doing the hardest thing first has lots of benefits. One, if you do it and you get it done, you get that sense of achievement, you feel great. And that can propel you into doing other tasks throughout the day. But also, if you're putting it off, it's just there in the back of your mind. You know you need to do it, and that can also build the fear up as well. So doing the hard thing first is good. And secondly, like it kind of links to what I was saying before, but once you've got a schedule and you have it laid out, even if it's it's a perfect schedule and I've got everything time blocked in, which is really useful to time block, it's understanding that we're really bad at gauging time and how much we can get done. I can't remember what the phrase is. It's something like, we overestimate what we can do in a day, but we underestimate what we can do in 5 years. And it's knowing that the time blocks will inevitably move around, and they will change. And we always take more time than we think we're going to take. So that can help to just know that your schedule will flex, it will change, and that's okay.
Two things. Let's start with the latter one, time blocks. For example, if I'm doing some creative work, I have 2 hours for it. I don't want to stop if I'm in flow, if I'm in my zone of genius. It's just stupid to stop and start doing something else, because I know that I can do so much if I will be just working for another hour. So that's why the time blocking is useful, but quite tricky.
Yeah, and that's why rules are there to be broken, because if you've got a rule that from 9 a.m. till 11 a.m. I'm going to be doing this task, and I stop at 11 because then I've got to do something else. What if you're in that zone of genius and you're flowing and you're like, this is gold, like look at all this amazing stuff? You could have another 3 or 4 hours there, you complete a project, or you could pause it and then you come back the next day and you're a little bit more scared or a little bit more tired, and it's gone. You just missed it. So that's where the rules, they're your own rules, really. It's like break them and do what's best for you.
And then the first thing, hardest task in the morning. Well, that's something I don't fully agree with, because I think that it's better to start with something really small to get and build that momentum. So for example, I was inspired by that video. I'm pretty sure that you see it, saw it already. It was some general talking about making the bed in the morning, like in the best way you can. And that's exactly what I do. And then I jump on another task and then on another. And I will start just checking everything I need to do, and starting by all these small tasks, then starting with a huge one. And if I want like finish that huge one tasks first, or it will take way too much time, I won't get into that momentum, which I need throughout the next like 7, 8, 9, 10 hours sometimes. So that's my approach, but I think whatever works for you.
Exactly. So you can see how when you listen to yourself and trust yourself, you find out what works. And when somebody else comes along and they're like, no, well, you should do the biggest, hardest task first, and that's the right way to do it, and you're always wrong, then you'd be like, oh, well, okay, I'll do that. And then it doesn't work, and then you end up frustrated and angry at yourself. So listening to yourself is so powerful.
Jon, I always want to like wrap all of these interviews with something really actionable. So what is the thing you would recommend to high achievers, to people maybe who are entrepreneurship, who are entrepreneurs, who are CEOs, and they're facing some issues in their personal life? I know that it will be different for everybody else, but some general rule they can apply today, tomorrow, in a week. What rule or tip would it be?
The one tip that I would give is to find out who you love and what you love to do, and spend as much of your time doing that and coming from that place. And it may sound quite abstract or quite a kind of big concept to kind of look at, but using that as a principle to come from, everything else will flow from that. Because all of those 3 P's that we talk about, the people pleasing, perfectionism, procrastination, they're all born out of fear. So the more that we come from a place of love and we're able to be in that place, then all the other stuff lines up. The productivity, the motivation, the fulfillment that comes from doing what you love and spending time with the people that you love.
Wonderful. So, Jon, last question. If people like what they hear, if they want to get to know you a little bit more, maybe they want to hire you to work with you, if they like poker or if they like personal development, they want to move on in their life, what is the best place where they can find you, how they can get in touch with you?
Sure, yeah. Best place is to either check out my website, theperceptioncoach.com, or you can find me on Instagram or Facebook at The Perception Coach. And just link up with me there, drop me a message, and start a conversation. Doors always open.
Amazing, guys. So it's theperceptioncoach.com or the same handle on Instagram, and you said LinkedIn?
LinkedIn and Facebook as well. Yeah.
All right, perfect. All right, Jon, thank you very much for coming and for doing this interview with me.
Great, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And guys, please, if we share some value with you, just grab a link if you're watching this on YouTube, share with your friends on social media so they can learn from Jon as well. Or maybe if you're listening this on some podcast platform, just take a screenshot and again, share it with your friends. It would mean a world to me, and I think for Jon as well. So thanks a lot, Jon, again, and everybody, till next time.